Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good, good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
What's new in Dan world?
Not too much. Not too much. Yeah, I think you should. This is so professional. I think you should do the intro before you ask me what I'm up
Oh,
to.
that's right. That's right. Okay. Welcome everyone to Call the AD, the live show where Dan and I chat every Sunday with you all and with some friends today too. Uh,
Yeah,
we're having our friend Ben Hodges from Instagram fame and Fratello Watches fame on to chat in general with us. No particular theme, but I'm sure we'll catch some Speedmaster discussions in there as we always seem to.
definitely. I've been really looking forward to this because Ben's been with us from very early on, probably right at the very start. So it's really great to have him on. And yeah, he's a real interesting guy. So it's going to be
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it should be fun. Um, as usual, just a friendly reminder to if you like this content, there's a lot more going on the Scottish Watches Live channel. So please subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you can see when we're going live and like the video. As usual, there's the Scottish Watches Live sort of panel discussion shows on Fridays that have been a lot of fun. So yeah, keep an eye out for those as well. And on Fridays, and we're here every Sunday. So yeah.
Cool.
So
I'm going to
what's
say
new?
hello to a couple of people. Max
Yeah.
has joined. Hello, Max. I hope you're doing well. Terry, how's it going, Terry? Andrew and Blaine as well. Hello, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Welcome.
We appreciate it. So with the live on the Friday, how did it go?
Oh, it was really fun.
Yeah,
The theme was sort of with 2020 being such a crap year. What watch is your favorite, and what's sort of the silver lining of the year for you?
yeah.
Um, of course, I had wanted to pick the new Snoopy, and so had a whole bunch of other people. But Dave Sharp picked it, and I still managed to beat him with my underdog pick. I picked a ladies' watch, and I won. So go. I won't spoil the action completely, but go check that out if that sounds interesting.
Genuinely, though, it is an absolutely beautiful watch, and I think I would have voted you as one of the highest. It is stunning, absolutely
Thanks.
stunning.
I
Um,
picked the those that haven't seen it. I picked the Zenith Defy Midnight, but yeah, my wife bought one of those from our friend Karan, who's on the stream here. Hey, Karan.
Yeah. Hello, Karan, and hello, Jeff Reynolds as well. Thank you for joining. Yeah, it was really, really cool. I think if I was going to choose one, surprise, surprise, I would have either picked the new chronomats, the ladies' chronomats, because I think they're really nice.
That was Sam's
Um,
pick. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yes, I thought that was fantastic. She particularly liked the mint green dial. I think the 36 in general would be, be fine for a guy as well. They're not they
yeah,
are unisex really.
right.
Um, and I think coming close to that for me would be the top time in design, the Breitling top time. Is stunning with the sector dial, just looks so nice. I just wish they'd made it a little bit smaller like the original top times. I mean, even the original top times are very, very small, so I guess they could have gone a little bit bigger for the modern standards. But in design, I think it looks awesome. It looks
Yeah,
identical to a Breitling Sprint. So there's a watch in the 70s that came out. It almost looks identical. The case is the same. And in fact, Adrian spoke about it in one of his recent videos. Is it watches at £2,500?
yeah, that's right. I
Yeah,
think
and he
so.
had a sports watch, dress watch, and he picked a Breitling. He picked the Breitling Sprint, which I was quite impressed with.
He picked anything that's not a Rolex. How impressive!
Yeah, exactly. But it went into that. He went into that Amiga thing, and is what we spoke about with Max, where the neo vintage stuff really is such a good value
Hmm.
for and the range of stuff that you can get, and Amiga being particularly good at that kind of plethora of stuff available. So yeah, cool.
Cool.
So what are you wearing today, Arthur?
I'm wearing my Panerai PAM 560. Ooh.
And today I'm wearing, surprise, surprise, you'll all be pleased to see, the 806.
I swear we didn't coordinate this, but it's just what happened.
And also because you all love the Apple Watch. I know how much you love it, and I wear it all especially for you.
I don't even think this comment is about the Apple Watch, but I'm going to highlight it right now in response.
It probably is. It probably is. So, any news your end? Any watch news? Anything you would want to mention?
Oh, well, just a bit of fabricated watch news. The other day, our friend Karan and I were chatting with Dan, and Karan managed to convince Dan that there was a new 806 Navitimer. I don't know how convinced he really was, but a burgundy dial. And I figured this work of art was so creative. I figure this is probably worth sharing with everyone here. Let's see. So this was meant to be a burgundy dial Navitimer 806, only available to those who currently own the Navi 806. And when it was finally revealed, this is what it looked like. The level of artistry and effort here is insane.
How creative, Karam. But I must just say, even before you sent me any pictures, I knew that you were talking out of your ass. So,
I like how he left the AOPA logo exposed there so that he wasn't lying about that aspect of the design. But yeah.
Yeah, very good. Well done. Great.
Yeah. So what's new and catching your eye this week other than the new 806?
Not too much. I'm still looking at the cosmonauts, still seeing what ones are available. They don't come up very often. There's 2 on Chrono 24 available in the UK. It's either 2 or 1. It's not many. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about them before I go in and get one. And I think I would like to spend as much as I can to get the best one I possibly can. And with them being only 2 available, then it looks okay. But again, I'm so early into it. I want to learn a little bit more about it.
Right.
And other than that, just wanted to mention the Scottish Watches video, the recent one, literally that's just come out, the Louis Monet video, which is really good. The videography that Ricky does is really good. It looks fantastic, and that's with Pietro. So yeah,
cool.
Really, really cool.
I haven't seen that one yet. That's on the main Scottish Watches channel. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'll have to check that out.
Cool. Yeah. And what about news your end? There must be something.
Really, it was just the 806, the burgundy dial. I'm still down in Florida, and I've only brought a couple watches with me. I think we talked about them last week: Panerai, Top Gun, Black Bay 58, and the Breitling Premier that Karan so generously lent me. So they're all getting quite a lot of wear, and just enjoying kind of like having a little more limited selection. Makes you kind of think a little harder every day.
Yeah. Are you purposely reaching? Are you trying to sort of alternate, or you find yourself reaching for one more than the other?
I'm trying to alternate, but the Black Bay 58 is just always so good. I tend to go for it a lot, but yeah, we'll see. Try to switch it up a bit.
Is that because of the fit, purely the fit, or the aesthetics as well?
A bit of both. I think the fit's so comfortable, and it's just very versatile, whether you're dressing it up or down. So yeah, I just like it so much. So anyway,
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Even though that it still damages at the top of the at the top of the bracelet.
Yes. Yeah. There's this quirk with the Black Bay 58s where the end links, or the link that fits into the end link, articulates so much that it can bump into the end link and kind of mark it up a little bit. But it's part of the design, and I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, and the rivets don't bother you too much.
No, I'm okay with them. It's all right. I know some people are really fussed about them, but I just live my life and enjoy the watch.
Cool. Shall we get on to the guest then?
Yeah, let's do it. So we'll let him introduce himself. How about that?
Yeah, let's bring him in.
All right. Hey, Ben.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Ben.
Oh yeah, I could see you guys. You right?
Yes, very well.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, could you explain about yourself, Ben, and sort of how you got into the watches, and yeah.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ben Hodges, or as I've put on Instagram, Ben James Hodges, and the reason for that, adding my middle name, was simply because that was available. But a lot of people have confused my Instagram name a few times. They think it's Benjamin Hodges, or they read it quickly and they think it's Benjamin. So I get called all sorts of things. And Benjamin actually is my proper name, but there's only one person that can call me that, and that's my mother. Normally when I've been naughty, so not used to that. Ben is just fine. And and I just wanted an Instagram tag actually that was just my name. I know a lot of people put some clever pun around, I don't know, watches and cars, and combining them together, a bit like someone I know. And then whatever your tag is, I lose track of that, to be honest.
Yeah,
searching for it is a nightmare. Yeah,
we like underscores, don't we, in our names, Arthur?
Yes,
we do. It makes it a total pain in the butt to say our tag, so that's why they just show up.
Yeah,
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and sure.
What are you wearing today? What are you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Firstly, I'm wearing the Oris Divers 65. I actually looked this up today. What they call it, the dial, and that's brown. So it's I don't know. It's a little bit more than brown to me. It's certainly got some brown tones to it, but the sort of ombre color fade from the black bezel to the middle of the dial, I say, it's got a sunburst. Or I think Arthur and myself were talking about this. It was the tobacco burst, I believe. The Fender Stratocasters, or even the Les Pauls, have got a similar Gibson Les Pauls. They've got a similar sort of fade to it. But this is really nice. This is brand new. Actually, it was released around the same time as the Oris Caliber 400, the new Aquis with the Caliber 400 movement in it. But because they were that was taking the center stage, they sort of put this on, well, they just released it and they put it on the website, but they didn't do any sort of fanfare. There was no press release or anything like that. They just kind of released it. But actually, I just managed to get some time with it, and I'm really enjoying it. It's my first sort of exposure to the bronze center links of the rivet bracelets. So I know you were just talking about rivet bracelets on the Black Bay 58. This one also, I don't know if you can see those, but this one also has it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, I also hadn't seen that covered when it came out, and I think you're probably right. It's because of the new movement was getting all the hype and everything. That's a really, I love those bronze center links with that dial. Isn't them just perfect?
It's nice. It doesn't continue to the clasp. If you think of like a two-tone Submariner or Sea Dweller, that's got a gold bit that goes right across the clasp and right through the center links. This one kind of stops at the clasp, and then you've got a normal steel clasp. But it's really nice. It works really well. It's very similar. I don't know if people remember the Raycon Revolution did a orange dial, or they called a burnt orange dial, and that was the Diver 65 Honey. But that didn't have a date. This one has the date with a sort of black date window with white numerals. But it's really nice. It's such I used to have a 65 just like this, the same sort of size, but one of the original ones with the blown up inverse numerals, the sort of inverse loom. And I sold it simply because, why did I sell it? I mean, it was a nice watch. I had my Black Bay at the time, and I was wearing that a bit more often. But just having this on for a short time has kind of made me miss the 65. It is a really nice watch. It's such a thin one. I wouldn't say thin, but for a dive watch, it's fairly thin. It's got quite a big dome sapphire glass, but it's really comfortable and just looks great.
Sorry, I'll carry on.
I always find that on paper a watch is measured with the dome sapphire, and it sounds like it might be thick, but both that and the Speedy are examples where, to me, like on the wrist, the sapphire doesn't really feel like part of the thickness of the watch, and they wear a lot slimmer. So I've always enjoyed those in person. It's a cool watch. It's got
a definitely still that vintage aesthetic to it. And I tell you what's interesting. I wonder how they've covered the kind of dissimilar metal problem, because if you've got two metals together, a brass and steel, you'd like to think, well, it will corrode together at some point. There will be some sort of dissimilar metal corrosion. So they must have coated that steel in something to stop that happening. They've got to.
I'm not totally sure. What I did find was that resizing the bracelet was an absolute pain. It's got a pin and collar system, which is which is fine. You can work with that. The new Breitling chronomats have pin and collar, but this one is the toughest one I've ever had to work with, and I wonder if it's the materials or the difference in the materials. You've got the the collar that goes in the brass bit, and then the pin that goes through the steel bits. I'm not sure if that was the reason why, but it was a royal pain to get that out. But when it was sized, it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
and I think sometimes pin and collar is used with that sort of situation. I know, like the Grand Seiko titanium watches, I think have pin and collar, but the pins and collars are steel, from what I know. But yeah, anyway, so kind of take us back to the beginning, I guess. How long have you been into watches, and what sort of started it for you?
Well, honestly, probably very, very long time, ever since I was young. Obviously, growing up with James Bond and watching all those films, I was always interested in what he was wearing. Yep, exactly. What he was wearing on the wrist. And, at the time, it was the GoldenEye film, Tomorrow Never Dies, those kind of films. So they had the, Pierce Brosnan had the Seamaster on, Seamaster 300M. And I just really like the look of that watch, even from a very young age. I knew it was James Bond's watch, with all the Q gadgets, but just looking at it was nice. Whenever we did trips to sort of, where would it have been, Singapore or Hong Kong, places like that, when we were flying with my family. My family is all into aviation, so we normally went on trips quite frequently. We'd pass by all the markets selling fake versions of those watches. I know I hate to admit it, especially on a live forum like this, but I used to pick up.
It was a simpler time, Ben. It was allowed.
Yeah. Well, I was just a kid, and they cost about £10, probably the equivalent of, maybe even less than that. And they looked okay, but as soon as you got them in the water, they would just flood with water, and they were pretty useless. So, not much good. And thankfully, that kind of phased out. But that was when I was very young. And then I wore.
If Rick was on here now, he would say you'd buy a genuine Speedmaster, and that would still happen.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. I think the Speedmaster. Some of the Fratello guys, they go swimming with the Speedmasters, and they never have a problem. So I think it's got quite a bit of tolerance already. Actually, the Navitimer is the one I would worry about. Definitely with water, because that doesn't really have. But the Navitimer actually is. Sorry, I'll go back into my history in a sec. But just quickly on the Navitimer, the manufacturing they do to get that bezel to work. Because I don't know if people know, but you don't turn the bezel as such. You turn the whole crystal, everything connected to it.
Yeah.
Whereas, say for instance, the new Hamilton khaki converter, you just have an outer bit of the bezel, which is covered in like a mineral crystal. And that's the bit you turn, but the crystal itself stays solid in place. And people are like, well, how can Hamilton make a 100-meter water-resistant slide rule bezel watch, whereas Breitling have been doing it for years and they can't seem to manage it? What Breitling have done is make that crystal completely turnable, rotatable, but still has a level of tolerance against water ingress. And that is incredible, because there's nothing to stop water, really. You've still got to be able to turn the bezel. It's got to freely move. And it's actually amazing that they managed to get any sort of water resistance out of it. I think they rank it as like 30 meters, which is still plenty. I mean, you could take it just about into the surface of water, maybe not sort of go full on swimming with it, but if you were going into the sea or something, you just about get away with it. But still, it's amazing that they did that. So sorry, that's a bit of an aside. But
that's the watch that I got hate for, the Hamilton converter, wasn't it, Arthur?
It was. Well, you picked the black and gold one. I think that was why. I think it's actually a cool watch, other than the black and gold one.
Yeah, I think it's a cool watch as well.
Black gold, Black Bay 58.
Well, that was a PVD case with a gold bezel. I think that's a little bit more into the black and gold theme. Thank you very much. We'll debate that later. Let's let Ben carry with his story. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So it's not much of a story. I mean, I wore G-Shocks when I was younger. So following on from sort of the fake stuff, because I still wanted to wear a watch, and I still needed to wear a watch. I found it useful back then. I still find it useful. And then around, it must have been very early teens. I can't quite remember what age. I actually wanted to get a watch for my birthday. And I remember my dad and I, we went to loads of different shops, tried on so many different watches. I mean, it was unbelievable. We went through, God, it must have been 20 odd watches I tried on from different locations. Eventually landing on, I'll just get it out now, this watch, which is a Seiko titanium chronograph, quartz.
Cool.
Nice watch. The battery's dead in this. That's actually, well, it's not too far off, but it's it's completely dead, and it doesn't work at all at the moment. I just need to get a battery changed, but I still have it. It's mineral crystal, fogs up when I go running when I wear it, and it's not particularly great, but it was the absolute nuts when I was a kid, so I loved it.
Yeah.
But it was quite it was expensive. I really had to convince him to get it for me because I really liked it. It was £200, which to be honest, even now I would consider that quite a bit of money, considering the sort of high street brands which you can get for much less than that.
Right.
But I still have it. I don't wear it often, obviously with the battery dead and everything. But it's still nice to keep, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of it because it means a lot.
Yeah.
I have similar some early watches that maybe don't exactly fit my current taste as much, but they have sentimental value, and there's no I'd never get rid of them. Similar.
Yeah, I mean it's scratched the hell, and it's pretty worthless as a watch now. But yeah, I love it.
So Ben, what does your current collection look like as it stands at the moment? What's in it?
Ooh. Well, I've got most of it here with me, which is handy.
Okay.
I think if you're going along the history, the next sort of big watch to get, not necessarily to buy, but to get was this one, which is another titanium watch. This is the Breitling Aerospace. So sorry, Arthur, it's a little bit Breitling heavy, I'm afraid. But this was quite a meaningful watch actually. So this was around the time that I actually started working full time in a professional job. Started working in London as well, so commuting to the city quite often. Nice part of town, so obviously you got to look the part. And my dad thought that my Seiko wasn't up to it, so he actually just gave me this watch actually, which was really nice of him, and I just adored it. Like that was the moment for me. I mean, of all the watches, you could have been like a Speedmaster or a Submariner, but no, for me it was the Aerospace because one of those watches that you put on and you think, oh yeah, this feels different. This feels nice. There's something about this one. Like it takes it the cut above what you normally get. And it was from there that I just did loads of research on it, and then more watches and then different brands and different collections, and just kind of snowballed from there and just kept going deeper and deeper, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I really like it. And actually the reason why this one was so special for me was that it was his watch when he wore it in the cockpit when he was flying for BA. So it was
so cool.
That's awesome.
It's not like a space flown watch, but it's at least a commercial airline flying watch.
Yeah.
And that was quite a lot. And this was his. Oh, let me get this right. This I think was either his second or his third Aerospace at the time. So he went through all the generations right from the beginning. Bought and sold, so he didn't really keep them. But this is the last one he wore in the cockpit before he retired, and then that's the one he gave me. And then we'll maybe come on to it a bit more detail later, but he got another one this year as well. So we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my sort of watch history in terms of how I really got into the hobby. Cool. It was this watch just making me wanted to do more research on it and learn more.
Yeah. Ben, is that the 40 or the 42, that one?
This is the 41.
41.
You're talking about the millimeter diameter?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, this is the 41. So they actually...
The early ones
were smaller. The early ones were 40, but this one was slightly bigger at 41. This is the Avantage model. I hope I'm saying that right. This was actually a very, very limited in the lines of aerospace. They only did these for 1 year or even 1.5 years. So the difference is that they just say chronometer certified on the dial under Breitling. They don't say aerospace on the dial at all.
Yeah.
And this was the first one. I believe they had the minute repeater. So can you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
That's cool.
I'm definitely gonna get a first generation one at some point, because the very early ones had Navi timer on the dial.
Yeah, the early ones can be nice. The bracelets, I wouldn't say are particularly great on the very early aerospaces. Around about the early 2000s, I think is when the bracelets started getting really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously now they're excellent. But just be warned about those early bracelets.
Yes.
I gotta say, the aerospace is one of my favorite Breitlinks, and I do actually really like it. I'm not being snarky there. Were they titanium all the way through the different generations?
They've had some ones which are two-tone with titanium and gold.
Okay.
With like gold rider tabs and gold crowns.
Mm-hmm.
They've done full gold ones. They've done full white gold ones. But generally, yeah, they're titanium.
Cool.
And it's kind of just an engineer's watch. So the idea is that it's light and sort of not, it doesn't really get in the way of you doing your job or whatever it may be. So the idea was that they're kept light. It's just really nice.
Yeah. So obviously, well, by this point, it sounds like you've built up quite a collection with a range of things. Do you have any favorites? Whether that's sentimental or just outright, what's your big hitter? Say you want to be like the most, you're going to a watch event and you're like, I want to show off my pride and joy piece. What would that be?
Oh God. Well, I'd say one of them, I haven't had the opportunity to take it anywhere, at least in a very public capacity, because it is absolutely brand new. And trust me, this will be the last Breitling that we talk about for now.
Ben,
this is
you do not need to apologise. If Watch Medicine's on here, screw you.
I'm so sorry.
If anyone in the comments is really into Panerai and wants to be our next guest, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been the same with Panerai if he had a Panerai in the cockpit and gave that one to me. So
sure.
It could have gone either way. But and that's not to say I like every Breitling that's ever made, because there are some really awful looking pieces. Yes, what was it? The Emergency 2 they did with black diamonds. I mean, why?
What?
Why would you do that? And mother of pearl dial, just.
We've complained about that one in the past.
We've spoken about that already. Yeah,
that's not a good look. So they had some fun times, but this one I thought this was this year that this was released. This is the new Chronomat. Chronomat sort of arranged. It's been around in Breitling actually since the 40s with the original slide rule bezel. It was originally meant chronograph for mathematicians, and around the 80s, sort of early 80s, they revived the name and just had an automatic chronograph. It wasn't obviously one of the early Breitling automatic chronographs. It was sort of later on, but this around the Schneider era, which is a good era of Breitling, I think, when he took over from Willy Breitling. And the design had this sort of not rivet bracelet. What do you call it? A rouleau bracelet. That's it. I call it like a gun belt. Like on an M60, which Rambo loads in. It just reminds me of that. Yeah, which is really sort of macho and action movie type. Typical 80s kind of watch. But yeah, this is so they kind of repurposed that name, and it's a portmanteau of chronograph automatic, so Chronomat. And yeah, I thought it was good that they brought back this design. They didn't do this bracelet in the 80s for very long before they did that sort of 3-link bracelet, which is quite sort of common in Breitling now. But I'm glad they brought this one back. And as soon as I saw it, especially with the Tricolore edition, which is the Italian Air Force, the Italian Air Squadron, they really knocked it out of the park with this one. And the fit and finish, the design, it's a unique design, looks great, but actually it feels great. It's not like a rattly bracelet. It's not a hair puller. It's really solid. It's a bit like the mesh bracelet they do. They've got this Milanese shark mesh bracelet, which they do for the Super Ocean Heritage. And it looks like it will just completely rip your arms to shred, but it's so thick and so well made and polished well. It just works really well. It's so comfortable. But yeah, this was something that I bought this year during lockdown, and I hadn't managed to sort of show it off too much in terms of live events or anything like that. But it's the one I absolutely adore wearing. If I'm sitting on the couch and we're watching telly or something, I'm just looking at this watch. I'm looking at the dial, looking at all the details. Distracted by whatever's on the telly. To be honest, I don't really care. This is really nice. So that's probably one I would.
What made you go for the French Tricolore? Why that one, and why not the salmon dial or the green dial?
They're all nice. I think the copper salmon dial you mentioned, I think that's a really close second. I like that dial. I don't know if you noticed, but you probably do. But Breitling do not panda dials, but sort of differing culling subdials to the normal dial color when they're trying to show that it's a B01 or a manufacturing movement. So the Valjoux movements chronographs, they have single tone dials typically, and the B01 movements have sort of inverse or panda or reverse panda kind of configuration. But the Fratello Tricolore, just because the original was all tone, all same tone, all blue, this one is as well, but it's still a B01 movement. So that's kind of the reason why. I like the look of panda dials and everything, but there was something about the tone on tone kind of similar blue that I really liked, and I've really drawn to this one. Plus, it was that it wasn't necessarily because it was limited, but I did like that fact. It was fairly limited, actually. It was 250, which is in the scheme of watches, and especially big brands like Breitling, it was quite a low production number.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite dial of all the modern chronomats. Yeah, that's really beautiful.
In the sun and direct light is stunning. It was really, really nice.
Cool.
That's awesome.
But then if I was perhaps going to an event, maybe I'd wear this one. This is the Rolex Daytona. This is the white dial one. This is the pre-ceramic, just before pre-ceramic actually. This is the 2014 model, but the 2016 model is the one with the Cerachron bezel. So it was very, very late on in the production of that. And with the white dial and silver rings, now they've got black rings following around the sub dial of the new ceramic ones with the white dial. But I prefer the silver rings. And the thing I like about this one as well is the bezel. On the new one, they've got like really blown up numerals on the bezel, really sort of thick and bold, which is very useful, obviously, if you're trying to use them. But this one, it's a little bit simpler. And the other thing is that they're straight. Does that make sense? They go along horizontally. The new Cerachron bezels, they the numbers kind of flow in the circumference. They follow the circumference round. But with this one, they're all horizontal, and there's something about that. I just think it looks cleaner, it looks nicer, it looks easier to read.
And they just had the dots on the bezel at that time, right, rather than the arrows.
Yeah, it's quite a bulky, big bezel. It's the same size, it's exactly the same dimensions as this watch, but it's really bold and in your face, and it makes it look bigger. I think that's why they went with it. Now, I'm not saying it's bad design at all. I think it still looks great. And, if you manage to get one, it's something you should really appreciate. But and for me, I just prefer this design. Although the bezel on this one's really scratched, and that's one of the reasons as well. So it's a real scratch magnet. Max
will love that.
Yeah.
Our friend Max loves patina. That would probably, I would be nervous to wear a polished bezel, but I had tried on one like yours fairly recently, and the proportions just wear so well. I love that watch.
It's much smaller than the dimensions on the paper dictate. Yeah. So Rolex say it's 40 mil. It's not even close. It's 38.5, and that's from the widest part of. So even taking into account there's like a subtle curve on the case band. So a bit like day dates. Day dates have this sort of really subtle curve, unlike the Submariner, which is like a very straight cut.
Right.
And even measuring to that point, I've got proper calipers, and I measured. It is 38.5, maybe even less sometimes. I sort of give or take about 38.5, but that's much smaller than 40s. That's some epic roundup they're going for.
Yeah, that's right. I've always thought, especially if you look at like the non-crown side of the case on that kind of Daytona, the case profile almost looks more like the sort of sculpted shape of like a Datejust case, right? It's got that taper at the ends. It's not, and it's rounded a little bit. It's less slab-sided, unlike the other sport models.
It's really tapered. The lugs are really nice, and sort of svelte. It's kind of like what the original Submariners were like, very sort of thin, thin lugs and quite nice sort of tapering to the. I think it's absolutely smashing. Yeah, it's not something I wear all the time. I've got to be a little bit careful where I wear this one, especially in London, unless I buy one of those Christian Hagen lux. But yeah, but it's watch.
Out of your collection, Ben, if you had to pick one, and I know this is like the dreaded question for watch people, but if you had to take one, what is your favorite out of your whole collection?
I really hope I'm never put into that situation to choose. If there was a fire in the house, I'm getting out. I don't care about the watches, to be honest. They can stay behind because there's more important things. But if I could say 2 watches, maybe just to keep it down to that, it would be the original Aerospace, which I've shown already. And I think weirdly it would be this one, which not many people are aware of or what it is. It's the Oris Big Crown 1970 on your sort of favorite kind of strap, Arthur. It's the Bundeswehr strap, which is I think is really good. But it was a watch that was worn on my wedding day, so it's one of those sort of sentimental pieces. I rarely wear this watch. I hardly ever get it out of the box. It's never wound. I never set the time on it. But it's one that it's too sentimental to even consider the value of it. It doesn't even matter. It's that important to me, I think. And it was a watch that I was really proud to get for my wedding day because they were only getting 2 to the. Actually, no, I think they were only getting 1 to the authorized dealer where I got it from, and it was a bit of a bum fight to get it as well because there was another guy interested in getting it, and he had bought like 30 Oris watches from them, and I bought like 1, so one before this one, and I just played the fact that I wanted it for my wedding day. I, kind of leaned into the fact it was going to be an important watch to me, and he was just going to buy one just to have it, and they kind of favoured me over that, which is I think really nice. And plus, I did ask first, so they honoured that as well, which is really good. It's something I think more people should do. They should do first come first serve and honour people who show a real interest in them, not just sort of want to just add it to their massive collection already.
Right. I think this is Rick. He's recommending you try the Daytona on a Bund. I'm not so sure.
I have not taken the bracelet off the Daytona at any point. There's no way that's coming off the bracelet, and not because it was not because I don't like looking at it with any other way. I just can't get that bracelet off. It's not budging at all. The tolerances for how they fit the end links to the lugs is just so tight, so fine that I'm not even gonna go. Not even letting anyone else try. Only other people I would say yes, you can take the bracelet off. Would probably be Rolex themselves, but it's so tight on there.
I just want to call Karan out on this. First come, first serve should be right. Well, get him his bloody Pepsi then, for Christ's sake, Karan. Come on.
It's not like I have a unique idea in wanting that watch, though. To be fair.
Yeah, there's quite a few people after that one. Is it something you've always coveted, the Rolex GMT?
Yeah, the Pepsi color scheme in particular, and it goes back to for me. I have a little bit of a Pan Am connection because I work in aerospace and I used to be a flight test engineer, and we actually tested new jet engines on an old Pan Am 747 that they're long out of business, but the company I worked for at that time used that as a flight test aircraft. So it still had the original first class interior, 747-100. So you can sit up near the cockpit in the upper deck first class section on the old red and blue seats and pretend you're drinking a cocktail in the 1960s or whatever, late 60s.
Don't you think though, Arthur, it is really funny how we as watch people use certain things to justify a
playing that violin.
yeah, exactly. No, you're right. It's a connection, but I also just love the watch.
Yeah.
So I mean that just adds on top of it. And you're right. I mean I have to find a way to justify it to my bank account too. So that's fair enough.
But I wasn't using Sorry, Ben, carry on.
Well, I was just going to say, it's what do they normally say for the wait list is for that one in terms of years?
I don't know if there's
I don't know,
a real number.
Karan.
I'm sure most dealers would just say it depends upon your relationship, right? I mean,
Okay.
I've certainly not been promised anything, but yeah.
But average is probably around 5 years plus, I would say.
We shall
Easily.
see.
So it's only been 2 years since it came out. So
Right.
you just got another 3 years to wait. You'll be fine.
I was joking. Maybe I'll get it by the time I'm dead. But yeah.
At least you could be buried with it, I suppose.
Yeah. That'll be a lot of fat, a lot of good that'll do me.
So Ben, with the whole Fratello gig and writing about watches, how did that come about for you? How did you get into that?
Well, like many people, I followed Fratello as one of my sort of blogs of choice. There were many others I sort of kept up on. Houdinki being one of them, Blog to Watch, Time and Tide sort of later on, quite enjoyed, and Monochrome I ducked in and out, not always sort of following everything they did, but Fratello was the one that I was just like, I love reading about this. Whatever they've got to say, whatever watch, doesn't really matter. Not necessarily the Speedmaster, just sort of anything they publish. I kind of enjoyed reading about, and it was just something that I enjoyed myself. But it was about 2018 actually that Bertie, our sort of in-house photographer, and Balash came over for a Corner 24 event, and Roger W. Smith sort of gave a presentation. They gave a presentation as well, and it was just really good. And I started chatting to Bertie back then, and even back then he was saying, it'd be great to have sort of more writers on the team and things like that. But at the time, I was still writing for a website called 8 Past 10, which is run by my good friend Christian Hagen. He was the one that sort of brought me into that as well, and that was back in 2016.
Okay.
And so I was always kind of wanting to write about watches, even from just sort of my early days of collecting. And 8 Past 10 gave me a great opportunity. We went to Basel World a few times. Around about the last Basel World, 2019, actually the last ever Basel World. We were talking, they were saying they were taking a different direction. They're not doing sort of a community blog anymore. They're doing more sort of the social media, the YouTube and things like that, which is, all really good stuff. And they do fantastic stuff. I mean, Daily Watch is still the biggest watch Instagram account there is. But they were sort of doing less of the article stuff. And that's kind of where my interests were. I'm not very good at social media at all. And I don't know if you can see my Instagram, but it's pretty lame most of the time. I just wanted to do something more on the writing side. So round about later in 2019, I sort of reached out again, just to register my interest in writing for them. And luckily this time they took me on. They had a couple calls, and I already knew RJ a little bit. We'd met a few times at Basel World. 2019 Basel World, he showed me the new Moonshine Speedmaster, and got to try it on the wrist and do some wrist shots and things like that. But then later that year they took me on board, and it's been absolutely fantastic since then.
Awesome.
It's been over a year now, which is crazy. It's just gone by so quickly, but it's just been good.
I can imagine you meeting RJ for the first time, and he had this like seedy coat on. He'd open his coat, and it's full of Speedmasters. Come and look at my watches, young man.
It's so funny you say that, because not RJ, but there was a guy in Basel World 2019 who had all the watches that perhaps not all the watches he owns, but a lot of watches stitched into his jacket and his trousers, his clothes. I'm trying to remember his name, but he's I think he blogs for one of the German sites.
Okay.
But he just had all these watches on them. So it's so funny you mentioned that, because I saw the exact same thing there.
I think I've seen a photo of that. I think it was a while ago. He had braces on, and they were all stitched into his braces.
That's
and down his jacket. Yeah.
I need that.
And nice watches as well, not some cheap watches.
Yeah.
Very, very nice watches.
That's crazy. So I think for a lot of people writing about watches, that would be sort of the dream, to get paid for it and get to work with a really nice, like well-renowned site like Fratello. I guess I wanted to say, has that given you more access to write about new things, or has it changed your perspective on the industry at all? You know, from like a different viewpoint of writing from a more professional perspective, or?
Yeah, I've definitely learned so much in my time there, and there's definitely so much more I am to learn as well. You know, I'm still in that learning process, or probably always will be. But certainly hasn't changed my perspective of the watch industry. You know, there are sort of good brands, bad brands in terms of how they handle press. You know, even some of the most well-known brands, just Rolex and Patek Philippe, they're not particularly friendly, I would say, to chat with or sort of get access to certain information or certain watches. You know, they're just examples, but there are others which are sort of good and bad as well. But yeah, it certainly hasn't changed my perspective. I think the watch industry is what it is. It is an industry, and the idea is to make money as best they can. But having sort of the insider knowledge a little bit has definitely opened up my eyes to a little bit more of what they kind of do, how they operate, what's important to them in terms of brand messaging, and making sure they're having consistent messages. So I think that's important to them. But it's always important for us to have our own voice. So many blogs I come across, which sometimes I hear of and never heard of before. They sort of come and go. And some of them are just sort of big magazines who cover watches and a bunch of other stuff. But they tend to sort of regurgitate the materials that they get, and sort of reword the press kits into a slightly different way, use the same press images. And what I've kind of learned from Fratello is that they're very sort of averse to just covering what's ever in the press release, or even using the press pictures. What's great about Fratello is that we do have that in-house photographer, Bertie, that I mentioned earlier, who takes amazing images. I've got to say, they're even before I joined Fratello, I thought they were the best images on any site. Really detailed, not always macro shots, because macro you don't really get a sense of what the overall watch looks like. You just see like a tiny piece of it, which is good for like if you want to show off details like a tourbillon or something like that. But I feel for what you want to sort of see on a site, you want to see the whole watch just in different angles. So he's really good at doing that. And we tried to take our own photos and spend some time with the watch as well. That's more important as well. We're not there to race to get to the race to be first. We don't always want to be the first ones to cover a watch, so that we get the information out there as quickly as possible. People come to us and that they get the information first. We like to sort of sit back, make sure we've got the photos in line, make sure we've got hands-on with the watch, and make sure we're ready to publish it when we are, not necessarily when they are. Because sometimes we get brand information on the day of release, and there's zero time possible to make an assessment of that watch. So that's something I think we're always slightly different about. If it's like if there's new watches that we do want to cover, sort of big watches, we'll cover those. But most of the time we just compile them all together at the end of the week, which is our This Week in Watches articles, which just cover anything or press kits that come through. We just give a little blurb about them, basically sharing the same information, but not sort of doing single dedicated articles to them, because it's just too many watches being released at the moment to cover. So we just want to just make sure we scale it back and focus on the good quality content.
Yeah, I appreciate that approach too. Because it's when you do write an article, when it's going to be a thoughtful perspective on the watch, right? Like you say, not just a regurgitation of a press kit with a bunch of fluff around it to get it out quick. But that's one thing I appreciate about Fratello's articles in particular.
So Ben, what articles are you working on right now? What can you sort of let us know what's coming up? And
Yeah, sure. So got a few things in the pipeline, just more opinion pieces, I guess. I've got the new Oris Caliber 400, which is due to be published sometime soon. And I'm comparing it with my Aquis as well. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but I've got the Aquis Great Barrier Reef 3.
Beautiful
which
watch.
Is a nice watch. Yeah, it's pretty good value as well. It's less than 2,000. It was a good watch. I still absolutely love it. But I was comparing the new Caliber 400 against that one. Not so much on the design, but more like the technical prowess of the new movement compared to this one. And it's definitely a much better movement, but I do prefer the look of my watch. Other things coming up. I mean, we've been working on this Speedmaster World Cup for quite a while now.
So great, such a great idea.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was born from the idea of our Sunday morning showdown. So I can't take credit for the Sunday morning showdowns. For anyone else, this is an article we do on a Sunday morning where it's a showdown either between two watches or it's an opinion of two writers against the same watch. But the sort of consistent thing is always two writers, not just one writer. So you get opinion on both sides. And we started that this year, I believe. Either this year or late last year. I can't remember now. It's just kind of all a blur now. But previously, we didn't do articles on Sundays. It's a very European operation not to work on Sundays. But Rob Nuds is our managing editor. He brought in the idea to do this article for Sunday Morning Showdown. It's been really popular, and we've loved doing it, and people have hopefully they've loved reading it as well. But from that idea, we just thought we could do this sort of special thing for the Speedmaster, because none of us really wanted to put the Speedmaster in the Sunday Morning Showdown and kind of argue against it. I think we did the X33.
Is that in danger of being sacked? Is it?
It might have been, yeah. But that's the thing. All of us kind of have our preferences of Speedmasters, but I think what's pretty consistent is that we all love the Speedmaster in some form. But yeah, because we didn't really want to sort of put that one on the chopping block. I think actually we did the X33, which is the digital titanium version, which I think it was so far removed from the Moonwatch that it was okay to argue that one. But we put all these sort of different bunches or variations of Speedmaster, and there are so many. There's so many we have to leave off as well. We grouped it as in you would group the World Cup. So it's a tournament format. We have groups, and then you have knockout stages later on. And because we didn't have the Euro Cup this year, which is sort of the big football cup for European international football, we did the sort of, I know it's not the same sort of scale, it's not going to generate the same sort of interest, but we just did this thing following that format with the Speedmaster. So we've done the group stages now. We had 8 groups of 4 watches. The winner of each watch advances to the next stage. The quarterfinals are just occurring now, so the first quarterfinals on the site. Yep, that's the one. This was RJ and myself up against each other with he had the Silver Snoopy 2 from 2015, the 45th anniversary of the Apollo 13 Silver Snoopy Award. So not necessarily when the mission happened. I think that's quite important that Amiga state that it's not about celebrating the mission, it's about celebrating being given the award. Which is why they released the watch in October. And this is up against my first Amiga in space, which I don't have with me right now. It's off for service, but yeah, that's the watch on Arthur's screen. Yeah, and I think it's pretty close actually. I'm very surprised how well the first Amiga in space is doing, because the Snoopy was absolute hotness when it was dropped back in 2015. Everyone wanted it. Took a while for them to deliver it because of the enamel case back was difficult to manufacture. So it just only generated more hype from that. But people that got them really love them. And since then, because it's 1,970 pieces, it's really hard to come by. It's really sought after. So the value has just gone insane, to be honest. But yeah, I think I can see that the Snoopy is winning. I'm not too surprised, but I'm actually very surprised that the first Amiga in space is quite close behind. So I thought it was going to be a landslide. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
I was just going to say that this is the first time I've seen this in a while, and I'm amazed at how close that is.
Yeah,
really. I would have said the Snoopy would go straight ahead, but
I think that's good. I mean, I love both watches, but I think this is showing that people are voting with their hearts rather than just thinking about value as well. So
yeah, definitely,
that's really good.
Yeah. So there's another quarterfinal on now. Let me just go ahead and highlight that too. Also a really tough matchup in terms of my preferences on speedies. This is the Tintin versus the Alaska project.
This is really difficult. This is very difficult.
I haven't made a decision here. Yeah. So for anyone not familiar, this is the Tintin. Really not officially called the Tintin, right? That was the original idea.
We coined that name. Well, we didn't coin that name. It was this is back in 2013, so obviously before my time. But on the first Amiga Baselworld appointment was with Fratello, and they initially told us it was to tie in with the Tintin, but I think during some sort of agreement between the publisher, the deal fell through. But they kept the design. They just removed any sort of reference to the Tintin name. But we kind of brought that back when we were doing our initial articles about it, and we were referring to it as the Tintin, through the Baselworld halls, and that kind of spread and propagated. And it's kind of stuck. But the publisher of Tintin in Belgium, they're not particularly happy with us using that name. They've sent cease and desist to us, to Fratello. So not even the company that makes the watch. Yeah. But there's no reason why we can't use that name. We've looked into it. So sure. We kept it, and we'll refer to it to the Tintin as much as we can.
Yeah. I wonder if you have DC Comics writing to Rolex saying, "Don't call it a Batman. Don't call it a Hulk." And
it's the same thing. They're a bit
Rolex
particular about their.
We didn't call it that anyway. Yeah. So the Tintin is up against. Let's see. Where's this Alaska project? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's the one from 2008. So not the original, but right. I think it looks great. That red seconds hand. It's really sort of stark dial. I know the Alaska name has nothing to do with it being sort of built for cold conditions or anything like that. But the sort of snowy white dial with that really stark red, it just reminds you of Alaska, like a really sort of cold, snowy Alaska. Unlike the sort of the hot summers that they get there sometimes. So yeah, that's a really nice watch actually. To be honest, I was struggling to choose one. I think I've landed on the Alaska just because I like that big red outer case. It's really ridiculous, but if I owned one of those, I'd definitely strap on that thing and drag it to work. Yeah, it's a really tight battle, to be honest. And I don't know which way you guys would go.
Dan, what do you think?
I think that's a really hard question. I nearly bought a Tintin in Regent Street when they were out, and I remember thinking to myself at the time, that is so cool. I bet it's not that popular. And at the time, I didn't get round to buying one. And now look what's happened to them. But I mean, I wouldn't have bought it just for the sole reason of making money out of it, because that for me is not what this is about. I mean, I genuinely like the watch, but at the time I wanted to buy the regular 3570 ordinary Speedmaster. So for me, buying two at once was a little bit scary, spending that money.
Right.
But if I had to pick, I think it'd be the Alaska project, because I love the command module seconds hand, sub-dial. I just think they look so cool. And I know I suppose I need to eat my own words. I'm not a big fan of gimmick, and that is a little bit of gimmick, but it is fantastic. I love it. Absolutely love it.
And I think it's going to be unanimous here, actually. I agree it's close for me, but especially if I was thinking about which one would I want to add to my collection, having a regular Speedy Pro, the Alaska project feels more different to me. Yeah. I mean, the Tintin obviously is different than a Speedy Pro, but the Alaska project has some cool, technical history to it as well. It's not just an interesting branding mishap.
For me, I mean, I'd wear the Tintin definitely more often than I would wear the Alaska with that big outer case. And even with the case removed, I think the Tintin just looks, like a normal Speedmaster, just with a little special color. So I'd wear that one more if I had both. But in terms of just my appreciation for each one, I would say I appreciate the Alaska and the story of that watch a little bit more than the Tintin watch.
Yeah.
Should we go ahead and cast a vote then?
Yeah, I think we have to.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see
I don't know which one is actually leading at the moment. So
let's see.
This will be interesting. I
Oh,
reckon
it's close.
Oh, yeah, it was very
Yeah.
close.
Couple percent.
That was amazing. Yeah, that's. But we chose the winning one. Well, at least the current winner at the moment.
Seems like the Tintin fans are going to demand a recount. That's fun. Yeah, so everybody go check out the Speedy World Cup articles. But let's see. I guess time-wise, should we see if we can open it up for? We've got a couple more questions for you, Ben. But if anyone in the chat has some questions they want to ask you as well, we can look out for those.
Yeah, while we're waiting for any questions coming in as well, when you started the Sunday Showdown, I think the first one you did the 3-2-1 and the Daytona. I think that was your first one, wasn't it?
Well, in that format, yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually in the format of two watches against each other. The Sunday Showdown column itself started with the Nautilus, I believe. So it was just two writers facing or voicing their opinions on the Nautilus. But in terms of ones where we started comparing watches against each other, I believe that 3-2-1 versus the Daytona was one of the early ones. And that was a really good fun one to do. Actually, that was myself and Jorg. Jorg is one of the Fratello writers that's been there one of the longest times actually. But he has a real eye for design, so he's a specialist in kind of knowing what's a good design and what is not. And I went for the Daytona, of course, because that's my watch. But he looked at the 3-2-1 and went into loads of detail, just like why it's so good and why the little details mean so much. And to be honest, it was a really tough battle. And I believe the 3-2-1 prevailed actually, which is if you're regular sort of Speedmaster Daytona people that normally sort of go head to head and battle on which is better. Normally the Daytona comes on top, but it was good to see the 3-2-1 really. And because they're very similar pricing point now, and that's always been the thing. Like the Speedmaster is a much more affordable watch compared to the Daytona. But even with the pricing being pretty much exactly the same, the Speedmaster came on top, which was really good to see. And even though I lost, I still appreciate the 3-2-1.
Yeah,
but they're very different in a lot of ways, though, aren't they? One is really a re-edition of something old, and the other one is a evolution on a design over a while, and making it better and better and better. So I just feel like, although I suppose price points you can compare them, but they are still very different, really.
No, I think they're not the same watch at all. No. But they're quite sort of a nice comparison one, because they're both so iconic in their own way.
Right. I feel like the 321 is more of an enthusiast focused watch, because you have to be pretty into Speedmasters to be willing to go to that level of the Speedmaster collection.
Yeah.
Whereas the Daytona is sort of more in the public consciousness, right? I mean, there's certainly enthusiasts that love them, but there's also people who love them for different reasons, so sort of a mix.
And there's something we're seeing actually about the first Omega in space, because that's really coming back in terms of popularity and people sort of wanting one. And I simply think it's because the 3-2-1 came out, and people are always asking for an Ed White style Speedmaster to return. And when it finally did, people balked at the price a little bit and then decided, okay, maybe I'll just go for the first Omega in space instead. And especially when you pair it with one of the flat link bracelets, which two brands have sort of come out recently to sort of redesign to fit specifically the first Omega in space. That's kind of also brought people's attention to the watch, and sort of, because it always came on a brown leather strap, which some people thought, that doesn't make it too adaptable, and that's why people change the straps quite a lot. But there was never really a really good bracelet option that was kind of referencing one of the original bracelet designs. So that's another article I did quite recently as well. Yeah,
actually, so one question I got on Instagram from our friend Instablaine was, he's got the gold 2998. So it's like that first Omega in space case. Yeah, that's right. With the sort of the brown panda dial.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, brown ceramic bezel.
Yeah. And he felt like that watch doesn't get much attention. People don't talk that much about it. And he was thinking it might be the precious metal thing, but there certainly have been famous gold speedies. I mean, when you think about the Apollo 11, Moonshine and the watch.
That was the original. That was the first proper limited edition Speedmaster was the gold one.
So he wanted to ask your thoughts on, that particular 2998 in gold, the brown panda. Why isn't it talked about more, or how does it fit into sort of the history of precious metal Speedmasters? If you have a thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked that watch when it came out as well. Obviously, it was the price that put off a lot of people at the beginning. Gold Speedmaster is quite a hard thing to justify because it's quite a little bit more. But they did a few other editions of that sort of case size, the CK298 case size with the not telemeter one. It was pulsometer dial.
Yeah, that's right.
Pulsometer bezel, and they did a blue panda one with a ceramic bezel as well. So they kind of expanded that range. That watch, the gold one, was really nice as well. The dial kind of looked a little Paul Newman-ish. I think that's what people saw immediately. It looked like one of those sort of tropical Paul Newman type dials, and immediate comparisons were made to that watch as well. So that maybe have thrown some people off because it veered too much from the Speedmaster, looking more like the older Daytonas, which, to be honest, I mean, the statute's up on that because they haven't used the Paul Newman exotic dials since the 80s. So, they're free to use that one. But a lot of comparisons were made at the time. But I think it is an absolutely stunning watch. And in fact, that watch, the Pulsometer CK2998, first drew Omega in space, they're all coming end of life now. They're going out of production very soon. So either they're out of production or they're fulfilling final orders. But you won't see those around. I think even on the Omega website, they're listing those as out of stock. So you still want to find one, I think you got to ring around some authorized dealers and find one there.
Yeah. And here's Blaine himself saying he thinks that particularly the blue panda in steel will be I like the black panda with the pulsometer and the red. I think it's the red second hand. That's cool.
They did.
All of them are good.
I was trying to remember. They did do a special edition of that, the Starmus one. Have you ever seen one of these?
Those were the ones that were sold in the Smithsonian, weren't they?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they're cool, aren't they? But when Blaine was talking about it, that's what I remembered. Just got a different.
So they were. Was it Neil deGrasse Tyson? He was the sort of one, sort of standing up for those and presenting that. But that's a lovely case back then.
Yeah.
If you go up to the dial again, God, where's this website you're on? Yeah.
Sorry, I did try and find the Fratello. I couldn't find it in time.
No, that's all right then. Who wrote this one actually from Bug to Watch?
Rob did.
Rob Nutt. Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like something he'd write about. So he used to be a writer for Bug to Watch before he jumped over to us. So he's been around for a bit.
Dan, if there was a Scottish Watches article on this one, you're in double trouble.
Yeah. But if you see that dial, it's kind of a Paul Newman-esque, a little bit, not fully, obviously, but it's got sort of a certain throwback to it. But really nice, though.
Here's another question for you, Ben. Totally different brand and theme. This one from Karan. Ben, what's your take on Blancpain and every year with the special editions of the Bathy Scaff for 50 fathoms? Any thoughts there?
I've been hands-on with some Blancpains before. Not so caught up on every sort of special edition they do. They're really good. When we was going to Baselworld at the time before Swatch pulled out, they put on some fantastic presentations and brought new watches. One which I sort of remember quite well. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a military spec, a mil spec one, but it had like the radiation symbol on the dial itself. So
the tribute to mil spec, I think.
That's it. Yeah, that's the one. It was 40 millimeter. So it's quite sort of a smaller size than the normal sort of 45 millimeter 50 fathoms. And it was a 50 fathoms. It wasn't a butterscarf watch. It was nice. It was quite thick for the case diameter. I find that sometimes making things 40 millimeter for the sake of it is to the detriment of the overall proportions. Sometimes it's good to have a wider watch because it feels more proportional to the height of the case. And this one was, it felt very top heavy when it was on the wrist. And I don't know what it is, but the bezel action of the 50 fathoms, the ones I've come across at least, and not all of them are sort of press examples. Some of them are, kind of fully production models.
Yeah.
The bezel action, the feel, it's not always been my favorite. It's not particularly bad. It's just not something I like. I like the feel of the Tudor Black Bay bezel. I think it's got a absolutely solidly feeling click. This is my my Black Bay, by the way, on a rubber strap, just for
nice.
Dan. Yeah, and for whatever reason, I just didn't get the same nice sort of tactile feeling from the 50 fathoms, and that's kind of put me off. At least for now. I mean, I haven't gone on hands-on with some of the newer Bathyscaphe watches. They did one recently, which Jorg wrote up about, which is a ceramic case with a chronograph with a bright green bezel as well. Just looking at the pictures, I wasn't overly in love with it, just because the ceramic, that sort of really dark black ceramic against the bright green dial just seems so jarring. It reminded me of like the Xbox, which is like black with bright green, and it's kind of off-putting in that way. So
I think you just nicknamed that watch, didn't you? It's the Xbox.
The Xbox. Oh dear. Microsoft going to come get me.
Well, we're just running slightly over time, but we've got a question here from, I think it's Jorg. Ben, let's start our planned Sunday morning showdown right here now. Seamaster 300M Spectre versus a Seamaster 300M Diver, No Time to Die. Arthur, Dan, which one would you pick? Ooh, Arthur, what would you pick? Ooh.
The Spectre was the like Seamaster 300, more sort of throwback design 300, right? Not the Diver 300.
Yeah, it's got a lollipop seconds hand on it, which is really cool. But it's like the 300 one we like, the titanium one, kind of that design.
Oh man, this is tricky. I think I would actually go for the No Time to Die. The only thing that bothers me a little bit about the Spectre one is the Omega logo and writing is very large in proportion to the dial. I do love the lollipop second hand, but I don't really love the Diver 300, but I actually think I like the No Time to Die one slightly better.
Dan?
I'm just getting the picture up now, but I'm trying to find the Fratello article so I don't get told off again.
I think that one reason I like the No Time to Die one, I think, is it's more different than a regular 300M diver than the Spectre was from the regular Seamaster 300.
Here we go.
I would. Let's get the picture up.
Yeah, it would be the Spectre for me.
Me as well. I have to say,
yeah, that's lovely. Really is.
I do like the new Daniel Craig Seamaster 300M that he did for No Time to Die, but there's a few things I didn't like about that watch that they changed. They made it titanium, which I wasn't. I didn't see the need for that. Obviously, he sort of preferenced that. They put an aluminium bezel on it, rather than the ceramic as well, because it needed to be that matte rather than a shiny finish. The other thing that I don't know why they did, which was to dome the sapphire. I don't know if you've held the new the 2018 Seamaster 300M, but it has a sapphire that kind of follows the lines of the bezel. It's got a really nice sort of contour to it.
Oh, cool.
Whereas the Daniel Craig, I keep calling the Daniel Craig one, but they're both Daniel Craig ones. But the one that he helped design, that has a real dome sapphire, and it kind of protrudes out. And I wasn't overly keen on that design feature either. But what do I know? Because that watch is just going mad in the second hand, and even this one, I think the Spectre watch is going quite well from the premium market.
It's seeing the Spectre one again, I started to doubt my choice, but I still stand by the fact I think that the Omega logo and name is just a little bit large on that watch. I love it otherwise, but
I think they're both good. But for me, I would go for the Spectre. I haven't seen No Time to Die either, so that's the deciding factor, I think, if it's a good film.
I don't like how they've put the broad arrow on the dial on the.
You don't?
I don't. For me, it's a bit daft, but it would be a special agent going into the field and with a massive giveaway of a broad arrow on his It's like,
I mean, depends where he wears it. I mean, if he's wearing it in a combat situation where he's not going for espionage, he'd probably get away with it because his gun would be stamped with that logo, his boots, everything else would be having that logo if it was MOD provision. So, but yeah, if he's wearing it like a cocktail party, he's trying to play some sort of other role, if he's trying to be a banker or something, might be a giveaway. Yeah.
Yeah, sitting down at the casino table to gamble undercover like in Casino Royale. Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, for me, it's just a little bit too much gimmick there for me for that. That's why the Spectre is for me, and that kind of vintage aesthetic as well is amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this was really enjoyable, Ben. Thanks for coming on and chatting with us. Maybe we can.
Thank you for having me on. And, no, I just want to say, I think the show has been brilliant since the beginning. I followed, as Dan said at the beginning, from the very early days. And I've tried to catch up every time watching it live on Sunday. But if I can't, I always watch it back a bit later. But I think it's just a really good way to sort of share with the community, speak to the community, and we're all in this together, and this is a good way to sort of spend a Sunday afternoon. So I think I really appreciate you guys putting on the show and especially inviting me on.
Well, thank you very much,
Ben. It's been fantastic having you on. Very interesting guy. I felt like we got another few hours of conversation. What we will do is we will get you back on, Ben.
Happy to.
We'll chat more. Fantastic. Thanks for everyone for sticking with us. Thanks for again the same guys and girls that are always coming back to us. We really, really appreciate it. Look, even Terry's still here. Terry was probably one of the first, and he's still here.
He probably remembers the early unrecorded episodes better than we do at that point.
Yeah. So again, any ideas from anyone, any feedback, check out Scottish Watches. The new podcast is tomorrow. Scottish Watches live on Friday. So that should be good fun. Anything else you want to add, Arthur?
And make sure to go vote in the Speedmaster World Cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
And join us for the finals.
Oh, that'll be tough. I'm interested to see. Watch Medicine's feeling pretty confident. He said, let me know when the Snoopy takes the trophy. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Ben.
See you next Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.